Welcome to another episode of Distory with Kate and Kirk. My name is Kirk from walruscarp.com, and today we are going back into the Tower of Terror, but we are experiencing moving on from the fifth dimension. So we've passed giant eyeballs, and we are now heading into the elevator shafts to enjoy the thrilling part of the attraction. So we'll go through that section, and then we'll do the epilogue, and then into the unload, or at least like where the room is with all the bric-a-brac on the walls, and then we'll stop there for today. But there are lots of artifacts, but there's not as many, luckily, as the library. With me to discover and talk about all these things, including the storyboards, is Kate, the Disney Cicerone. Kate, yo, what up?
Hey, this is a really fun episode, mainly because we actually get to go on the ride. It's been 21 episodes to get to.
It's been 21 episodes since we started.
I'm going to give you a little peek under the tent. I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to do it anyway. I was at the Tower of Terror on Sunday night, and I looked at it with such hatred and visceral distaste that I was like going to do some obscene hand gestures because I just wanted out. I think it's because Kate and I have been stuck in the fifth dimension for too long, and you're not supposed to be in the fifth dimension this long. So
no,
we we are very much looking forward to getting off the attraction. And, and then it'll feel nice getting a change of pace, and we don't have to go as deep divey into the other versions of the attraction. But
right. Yeah, that's the plan. But we are, just a little teaser, we are going to do a little Halloween special and take a quick break from Tower in a couple of weeks and we're going to go back to the Haunted Mansion and explore some things we've never talked about before. So get excited,
we
kids.
Desperately need to talk something else for a second.
Just a little bit, yes.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But anyway, let's dive in. Let's go back to the Tower. Let's ride this ride.
It's been more than 5 months.
It's been most of the year. It's fine. We're fine. Really, it's great.
I'm not. I'm having an existential crisis right now. All right, let's move forward. Yeah, that's the only thing we can do. Otherwise, we'll be stuck.
It's true. So where we left off was where what they call the Starfield doors opening. So all the light converges into this one beam of light, and then the doors open, and then your ride vehicle, your ATV, actually moves into the drop shaft and locks in. And so at this point, the show info guide from Imagineering from 1999 says, without warning, the elevator car plunges into the abyss. But before it can hit rock bottom, abruptly stops and streaks back up into the heavens, where another set of doors open to reveal the city of Hollywood far below. The snapping of a few cables and grinding of a few gears herald another white-knuckled descent into the bowels of the earth at a force exceeding that of gravity. But the Twilight Zone is not quite finished with them. There is a seemingly unending, sense-assaulting series of ascents and drops before the elevator car delivers guests safely into the hotel basement, where the disembodied voice of Rod Serling, I think it says it's a herd. I think I actually lost the end of that paragraph. But so that's what it is in 1999, which is not the same as it was in 1994. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But I want to just walk us through real quick what the actual storyboards are from Imagineering for these scenes, like we've been doing for this whole series. So we are now in frame 97, which is showing us a black box is all we see here, which is scene 8. And it says insert into drop lift. So this is when we're going into the lift. And then frame 98, we see scene 9, ascend to the top of tower. So it says the facility doors close. The light surrounding the vehicle goes out. The machinery at the top of the shaft is illuminated. The elevator equipment sparks and strobes as it begins to operate, and the vehicle ascends as unearthly sounds swirl around it. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing just because frame 97 is just a giant black box.
It's
like
just
I
black.
could have done that.
Yeah. Yep. It's just darkness, but that is exactly what you're experiencing at that point. So then
this is definitely where anxiety starts to set in for folks, because the darkness is not as ominous as the looking up and seeing the mechanisms and the lighting. So
yeah, it's definitely scary because you don't know what's going to happen. This is usually when you start yelling at me, up or down, Kate, up or down, like in every single video I have that I'm riding with you on this ride.
It's my favorite thing because there's 4 sequences. We'll get into them in a second, but yeah, I need to know if you think it's going to go up or down because it's a 50-50. You got it. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down.
Like real talk for a second. It's funny because not all the time. I don't always ride this ride with Kirk, but often I'm on this ride with Kirk, especially because we've been investigating this series. So anytime I'm in Orlando, we end up going to the tower because we're looking for stuff. But it's so funny that a lot of my recordings just have like us like chatting with each other the whole ride and like Kirk like yelling things in my ear and us like speculating about things while we're on the ride, and I have this like actual record of it, which is really just funny. So the evolution of how we've discovered things on this ride is well documented in Kate's videos. So
behind the scenes of a 5-month plus series.
I know I should really do a post about that because it's quite funny to hear all of it. Anyway, let's get back to the storyboards. So after frame 98, where we're seeing the ascent to the top of the tower, frame 99 is through the metal scrim material of the elevator ceiling. Guests can see the rapidly approaching top of the tower, which this is funny, Kirk, because I don't think that I have ever like seen the rapidly approaching top of the tower, like illuminated top of the tower. You're not looking up at all.
I look up every time.
You look up every time? I've never looked up. I've always looked straight ahead.
I look up every time because I've always thought that it wasn't purposeful for you to see up above. Jackie and I were sitting there looking at the tower, trying to decide how and why they make decisions to open up the doors of the top. And obviously when it's daytime, the natural light plays a big factor on illuminating the mechanics up above. Right. But they do have lighting up there, and you can see it like through the grating of the top of your ride vehicle. To me, that's what makes it really, I mean, there's lots of things that are happening, right? So sensation wise, we're physically moving forward. There's also, you're going into the ride vehicle's like chamber that will move its elevator, that'll move it up and down really quickly. So it's like locking in place too. So there's lots of like bumps, shakes, metal on metal sounds that it's all like, this thing seems rickety, like we're in trouble. And then the ominous, like you get a scope of how tall the shaft is by
that's our show, folks.
This must be innocent. I should have said elevator prior. So you get a perspective of how much ride height is in here, and it's very ominous and looming seeing it well illuminated either via natural light or artificially being illuminated as well.
Good job hanging on for the ending of that.
I had to. I'd at least finish it.
Okay.
You know what the funny thing is about every time I make a mistake like that? It's honestly it's benign. It's not meant to be inappropriate.
Let's get back to the storyboards. So frame 100 is actually also a black box. So there's nothing there. It's just dark. Frame 101 shows these doors. So this is actually different than what the storytelling I think is today because they've changed the drop sequences so much. So scene 9 in 1994 says top of tower, the 13th floor. The elevator comes to a stop in front of a set of closed elevator doors. Stenciled upon their surface is worn faded numerals 13. Guests hear the elevator arrival bell ding. The floor indicator lights up at 13. I mean, if there is 13 on some doors, I don't know if I've ever noticed or seen, and I definitely have never seen an indicator light. Ever.
No, never.
Mm-mm. So it was very clear that the storytelling was, we're going to go to the 13th floor, which I think is completely lost now. Like, I don't think anybody notices. And we've talked about the indicator going past 12 in the load area before you get on in the fear of 13 and all those things, which triskaidekaphobia. But we don't have to get back into that. But that is because of this original storytelling in 1994. So then in frame 102, we do see the doors open up and we see the sign for the hotel is right in front of us. But there is an indicator above it, which is so interesting. So frame 103, the doors are completely open. It says the hallway directly in front of the elevator has been snapped off a few feet away from the elevator doors. Through the opening, a panorama of the park can be seen. A portion of the back of the large illuminated hotel sign can also be seen, affixed to the wall just above the elevator. The sign is shorting and sparking, which I've also never seen the sign short and spark. Unless you have.
Technically, our left elevator shaft is the one that has a small obscurity with the sign. The one on the right has no visual distortion or obscuring anywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you'd have to like specifically get one specific elevator shaft versus another.
But have you seen it sparking?
I've never really, no. I've never, if that was an effect, it has not worked in a long time.
Yeah. We have a note from our good friend Joshua Harris, who's been collaborating with us on this project. He says there was an oh my god light that illuminated a faux elevator motor at the top that was removed within the first couple of years. So that's probably what we're seeing on the storyboards in terms of at the top.
It's just natural lighting now, I guess.
Yeah. So frame 104 is scene 9, false drop. So it says the elevator car drops suddenly, falling approximately 1 foot. So instead of like a big drop, there's just a tiny little one. Remember, this is 1994. It says frame 105 is there's a bright flash of errant electricity from the hotel sign. A second still frame video image of the guests is captured at this time. So this is when they take your photo. It will be offered for sale in the merchandise area at the conclusion of the ride. And we'll get back to that in just a minute. I just want to get through these storyboards first. Scene 9 is the drop. So we're actually seeing like a visual representation of the guests dropping in the elevator. It says the elevator plunges down at full speed. The world flashes by through the openings in the tower. And then frame 107 is more of the elevator falling. Frame 108, now it looks like we're falling, but we're like falling into like electricity and like into the 5th dimension is what it feels like. Frame 109 is more distortion and electricity. And then frame 110 is like almost like a big pow, like a big flash of light. I think it's supposed to symbolize us getting to the bottom, I'm guessing is what this is. And then scene 10 is Rod for frame 111. The simulated motion of the elevator abruptly stops. And then there's darkness and silence. So we have yet another big black box at the end. Then frame 112, a slash of light appears as elevator doors open opposite the vehicle. Frame 113 is, we kind of see like these doors opening and we're starting to see like a tiny little bit of the television. Frame 114, we see a little bit more of the television. Frame 115, we have a Rod Serling voiceover. It says, a warm welcome back to those of you who made it, which will sound very familiar today. Rod Serling steps forward in frame 116 and wraps up the episode with a chilling epilogue. His voiceover says, and a word of warning, something you won't find in any guidebook. Frame 117, you actually see Rod Serling appear on the television. It says, the next time you check into a deserted hotel on the dark side of Hollywood, make sure you know just what kind of vacancy you're filling, or you might find yourself a permanent resident of the Twilight Zone.
Bum, bum, bum.
Frame 120, when Rod concludes, his image winks out, like the picture in an old television set. And then frame 121, scene 10, it says eject from drop lift. So the elevator backs away and moves towards the unload area. Frame 112, we're actually seeing the return hold area, which we're going to go over later. And you see basically a bunch of crates, a whole bunch of like windows and frames and old chandeliers. So we'll see this come back later when we actually look into this area. And frame 123, we see B1. So it's orienting us to where we are in terms of like storytelling, like the basement. And that's it. So that's all of the storyboards. I also have a note from Joshua. It says the sparking effect was real, but occasionally the sparks would still be live and catch trees in the queue on fire. They are working to bring this back in some form. So that's
really cool.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks, Joshua. Before we get to some of like the elements in this ride, I feel like we need to talk a little bit about the drop sequence and how it has changed over time. Obviously, it had just one single drop here in 1994. We talked about this a little bit when we did, the mechanical operations of the ride, but it was upgraded in May of 1996. It was upgraded with a second drop, which was called Tower of Terror 2. because people wanted more drops than just one. And then 1999, they added a third drop, which was called Tower of Terror, More Fear. And then in January of 2003, a triple drop was replaced, and the order and duration of the drops was randomly generated by a computer for each vehicle. So, Kirk, do you want to talk more about the drop sequences and what's going on here and what we experience now?
Yeah, so I had a really rudimentary way of knowing the drop sequences by just writing up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down while I was on the ride. But luckily for me, wdwmagic.com.
Hold on. It's like
what?
Kirk with his notepad on like Tower of Terror. Like
it was, well, technically it was a notepad, but that was an app. And I would just write UD, UD, UUU, DDD, like just to, that was how I kept it.
I love it.
Yeah, very geeky, but I literally would write that. And then usually the live stream was really good. Pocket Fan was really good about keeping track, because I would be like, we're going up. All right, we're down. Up. But again, I digress. Here's a visual representation of the 4 different sequences. So it all starts on that baseline 5th dimension, right? And then you have the unload floor, and then you have several floors above us until the pinnacle, right? So this will show you the full length of the drop. What's interesting is people do have particular, for folks that do go on tower often, they'd rather go down or up or whatever. Do you have a preference, Kate, like on your first initial?
I like to go down first. And
okay,
then
me
up.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. I think down is more jarring than going up. Up is too comforting, in my opinion. But there are 4 different sequences, and all of the sequences will start with either up or down. 2 of them go up, and 2 of them go down. But ready? I'm going to do this quick.
Okay.
Drop sequence number 1. Down, all the way up, partially down, partially up, all the way down, halfway up, little tiny. This is like a rumble. Those little
they're like
what
floats.
We're looking at right now, for those that are listening, is a red line graph that shows you, and there are like these little tiny undulations of about half a floor, and that's to categorize when they do like a shaking or a rumbling of the car before it moves up again, and then it goes up about half, rumbling, then all the way down, about halfway up, and then all the way down again. So there's 4 significant drops on that one. The next sequence, though, which starts with an up sequence, has far less complete drops. Where the one before it had 4 really sizable drops, this one only has 3. So you go all the way up, then half down, then all the way down, then all the way up, then a quarter down, then all the way down, then like a quarter up, quarter down, 3/4 up, 3/4 down. So that one to me is like kind of crappy. Like you don't really get a full, you don't even get one full total drop.
That's for those of us who get a little bit nauseous. That's the one we appreciate.
Right. The ride. Up one. The up one is it's a lot more of a tame ride than the one that goes down and then goes all the way up. That one is the best sequence, I think, for those that are seeking thrill. Then the next sequence is down, mid up, all the way up, down a quarter, down full, up a half, up another quarter, down all the way, up all like almost to the top, and then all the way back down. That one's pretty solid too, and that one starts with a down drop. So I think if you get a down sequence first, you're going to get a more thrilling experience in the way I'm interpreting the graphs.
I think that Profile 3 is my favorite, and I'll tell you why in a few minutes. But
okay.
Yeah.
And then the 4th profile is you're in the middle, you go all the way up, all the way down, almost to the top, all the way back down, about midway. Then it's like 2 little quarter steps to the bottom, and then about 60% up and then 60% down. So that one's not bad for an up sequence. I do think if you get sequence 2, where you go up, and that one is probably my least favorite. There's not a whole heck of a lot going on there, and you don't get a full sequence, I think sequence 1 is probably my favorite because it has 2 shakies, and there's lots of all the way ups and all the way downs, which I think are fun.
Yeah. I think 3 is my absolute favorite, and not just
3 is
for
solid.
that reason.
3 is real solid.
Well, and 3 is where you get some special things that you can't get on any of the others. So let's talk a little bit. There's a couple other things you do actually see on this ride beyond just what we've talked about. You do see the Hollywood sign and whatnot when the doors open. Really beautiful view of the park. And you do see also this ghost projection from the people in like the elevator that happens on one of the doors that open. I'm not entirely sure if this happens with every single sequence. Have you noticed that is this something they include in every single one? Like,
no.
Do you always see this?
So this is the projector, right? That sometimes will kick the error off that looks like we're in the Matrix.
Right.
So this is, again, like a specialty one where if you stop probably in sequence, you probably get this in sequence 2 and sequence 4.
Okay.
You probably get this one.
So you basically get this effect for these people that look kind of like they're ghostly and they're glowing, and then they kind of like blink out of existence with lightning. But yeah, I don't think it happens with every single sequence, which is interesting in that. And then Joshua is also mentioning that sequence 1 is copied from Tower version 3. So that's a holdover from a previous version. So there's a little history there. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's also saying that's just the epilogue screen. Oh, interesting. Okay.
So they reused the epilogue screen for this effect.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which makes perfect sense.
Do you have that error screen handy to show them?
I do have that error screen handy. So this is on a drop sequence. It shows up at 8:52. So we're going all the way to the tippy top.
And it only happens for profile 4, apparently. That's when the ghost people show up. So if you...
So right here on the bottom is, you'll notice like there's a green cursor. It reminds me of how Apple computers used to look when you would load up and the only colors they had were black and green. And this will be a cursor that's flashing. And Joshua told us that this is like an error when the screen can't load the prompt. So it's like discharges an error like it's trying to load.
Or you can say you're entering the Matrix. I think that's equally as valid because...
I like to take the red pill. Follow the white rabbit. Machines are using us as batteries.
We're already going to the fifth dimension. We might as well. But
yeah, nobody cares. Yeah.
So sequence 3 is the one with the broken window. Some of the other things we see on this is lightning bolts that are on the wall, and some of them do actually illuminate. And this, I think, is interesting, Kirk, because this is a holdover from a concept for the Hollywood Haunted Hotel version, where you can see in this concept art there is like bright flashing lightning and a bright light and everybody's screaming and it's a thing. So I think that's why there is lightning like painted on the wall, and also some illuminated lightning on the wall is a holdover from this specific concept art from a previous version of the tower that we didn't get. But again, so many things have come from that freefall version.
I pulled up because in this same drop sequence POV, it has these lightning bolts.
Oh yeah.
So they look like light boxes. So you can see on the left-hand side, like this is carved out and translucent on the left, and then they just get illuminated at sequence. So
yeah,
and they're pretty tall. Like they almost look like they're like a 4 or 5 foot, but they're real quick.
So Joshua says the lightning panels were added for Tower 2 twice the fright. So that's when they were added to the tower. Thank you, Joshua, for all your help today with that. Appreciate it. This is so funny because, Kirk, when I was watching the video of this was when we discovered it for the very first time. And it's these people, well, at least I had seen it for the first time. You'd already seen it before, which these people that like light up with like illuminated flashing purple lights. And like they're electrified, and they're kind of like ghost people. So on the right side is the governess, and on the left side is the little girl. And they're basically like the transparent people that we saw in the fifth dimension scene, except that
the ones that are supposed to bicycle oscillate, but
yes,
don't do jack.
Exactly. But these ones don't oscillate. They just flash. And so this is, according to Joshua, he said they were added during Tower 4. the randomized upgrade. So that's when they got added to the tower. They're basically the same as those in the fifth dimension, but they just they're not split with the bicycle oscillating. But they only light up for profile 3. And I think that's why profile 3 is my favorite. It's got the broken window. It's got these people in it. So you know that if you see these people, you're in profile 3 for your sequence.
It's very cool because it's hard to ride every single sequence because it's not like you can ask for a sequence because it is randomized. But I remember when I first saw these, I was like, what? How did nobody know? And I just think I was missing the sequence to not see those characters. But it's the same exact one. So it's exciting to see them in a different form in the actual tower itself.
Yeah, and they're actually sitting on top of the air vents. So that's where they're at as well. But I think it's so fascinating, Kirk, that I never realized that you're going to see different things. It's not just a different drop. You're actually going to see different things depending on which sequence you're in. You're going to see the window, if you're going to see the ghost people, if you're going to see these lightning flashing ghost people, it does matter which sequence that you're in, what you're going to see. So then you can really be like, oh, I must be in this profile or this one, not just by the drops, but also by what you're seeing, which I think is really cool. And that they added all of these things, and some they pulled from old concepts or they added them from different, versions of the tower. I love that there's just so much history that's integrated into the different sequences. A lot of thought went into that. I think it's pretty neat.
I agree.
One other thing that happens while you're on the ride is they do take your photo, which is, I think everybody knows that by now because it's a fun part of the ride. But I have this one that's from more of what it would look like earlier on with I think this one still has the bars on their lap, which you talked about last week, Kirk. And then I do have this photo of you and I on this attraction in the back seat, a back row. It looks like you're pointing your camera at me, which is so funny because I didn't know you did that.
Yeah. Well, we like to have fun here. That must have been during the holidays because I have the walrus claws on.
Yeah.
So funny.
I was wearing the Tiana outfit. My ears are in my lap, I think. Let's talk a little bit about not just what you're seeing on this attraction, but actually during this ride sequence, there's a lot that you're hearing as well, which Kirk kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but I'd love to talk about it a little bit more because it's such a huge, massive part of this attraction or for this particular ride experience is the sound. This was Joshua said, without the audio, that the motors and ride system is almost silent, and it's actually a very boring ride without any of the sounds. About 80% of the experience is in the audio and the darkness. So there is a traveling cable that gives power to the speaker system, the lights, and the IR camera. He said it's a 2-channel mix with speakers both in the cab and also ones at the top of the elevator shaft. So the sound is coming from more than one place, which I think is really interesting. Sounds you hear, the ones that I could tell Kirk, I was like, you hear electricity for sure, lightning, electricity sounds, cable snapping, whooshing, like a sliding ascending tone, mechanical noises.
Yeah, it's like a
yeah. Steam and creaking, and I don't know if you have any other sounds that you've heard on the tower.
Clang. Ooh.
Thank you. That was great. Greg Meter was the sound designer of the specific scene. He said he rode the elevator hundreds of times to make the sounds match the movement of the elevator. Before they had randomized drops, he had a notepad and wrote the timings of everything, and then would make 2 to 3 versions and install it and then test them and then go back and make adjustments to what didn't feel right, which is actually something they do for most rides for Imagineering. I'd say all of them, probably. I think I read a really interesting account from Kevin Rafferty about how they sound designed Radiator Springs Racers too, and it's they just ride it over and over and over again and make adjustments and then ride it again and see how it sounds. But he mentioned that by the time you've done the ride 30 plus times, the thrill is completely gone. I can imagine in a row. Said, except one time they were testing and they paused at the top, and the ride engineer said they would let them know before they dropped them. And they sat for about 20 minutes and forgot that they were sitting on the ride, and suddenly they dropped and the thrill was back. So that was quite fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. Greg also did the sound design for the boiler room, the queue, and the ascent shaft. Joe Harrington did the sound design for the fifth dimension, though, so a little bit different. And I also have just a cast member memory that I found. They said there was a first person to ride Foxtrot Side in the new millennium, and I was absolutely terrified. We had been hearing horror stories about Y2K issues, and none of us cast members knew what to expect. Since we'd powered down and back up again, there needed to be a cast member ride through on both sides to check show quality, and no one wanted to go because they're actually going to fall into the fifth dimension.
Yeah, don't know if the computers will work.
Yeah, Y2K was like a massive thing for you kids out there. We were afraid that all the computers are going to reset to 1900s or something. Like they hadn't planned the dates in the computer to be able to roll over into the 2000s was the scare. And so that everything was going to go haywire and the world was literally going to end when the year 2000
But they used to call it Y2K, which is so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. So
for modern day times, if you're at Taco Bell right now, you can get a Y2K meal.
Really?
And if you're wondering what that is, that's from the computers which never crashed.
That's so funny. I didn't know that Taco Bell was doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, obviously Y2K wasn't a thing like everybody thought it was. But I remember my family preparing for Y2K. It was like...
How did they prepare for Y2K?
Oh, it was like apocalypse preparing. We had barrels of water and food. Oh, yeah. It was a thing.
Oh, wow.
Now the ride has ended and we're going to see what is called the epilogue. And this has actually changed since 1994. They used to have an outro video on the TV. It likely changed when the drops changed because that made the drop sequences longer. So they needed to move the AGVs faster and make everything just because of timing. So, Kirk, do you have the video of what it used to be in 1994?
Yes, I do, Kate.
Thank you.
A warm welcome back to those of you who made it, and a friendly word of warning, something you won't find in any guidebook. The next time you check into a deserted hotel on the dark side of Hollywood, make sure you know just what kind of vacancy you're filling, or you may find yourself a permanent resident of the Twilight Zone.
No, we do hear that same audio now. That's Mark Silverman imitating Rod Serling, but we don't actually see that same video now.
No, it's different. And also even the audio, his dialogue doesn't change, but you're getting a lot more sound effects.
Mm-hmm. And we're also seeing things from season 3 of the Twilight Zone's opening with the spiral vortex and the window and all the things flying by. So the objects we see are from season 5, but then there's a spiral vortex from season 3 and then Mark Silverman's voice over it. Yeah,
it's great. It's pretty much that entire time people are just going, oh, that was so crazy. You can't really hear it because people are freaking out after just experiencing that,
Yeah, I remember in an interview with Mark Silverman too, he talked about how one time the audio didn't play during that thing and he was actually on the ride and so he just started saying the ending and then people applauded when he was done because it was I doubt that they knew that it was even him that did the voiceover, but it sounded probably really accurate. So
have you ever done that before on a ride, Kate?
What? But done the audio
Yeah, if the audio has an issue, you replace the audio.
No, I'm too timid to do that. I would do it in my head.
I've done it once.
Where? In the Haunted Mansion? In something else?
Figment. I was on Figment, and the part where you see the it's the visualization, the sight lab.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sight lab wasn't doing anything, so I did the whole entire thing.
Did people
out
applaud?
Loud. No.
Oh. I'm sure it was great.
They lifted me up on their shoulders like a Greek god, and they brought me to Figment and placed him at his feet. No, I think people laughed and thought it was fun.
That's great that you could do that. I love that
because people who do Figment know Figment. It's been there. It's been the same forever. So
right.
If you know Figment, you know Figment.
Quote of the day: if you know Figment, you know Figment.
Yeah, I learned that from my wife. She taught me that one.
Okay, so I have a really cool thing about the ending of this attraction in terms of the going into the unload area, because there was actually going to be something else here, Kirk, that is going to blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Okay. Hang on.
The ad has to go on backwards for this.
I'm ready.
So instead of a video of Rod Serling, they were going to put in a full-size Rod Serling audio animatronic in that space.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding me? They were going to have one?
Mm-hmm. And
That's actually really cool.
They even put in attachment bolts on, like, you can see them on the right side in Foxtrot. I don't know if you can see it, but they're for sure there in Foxtrot.
Wow.
So they didn't do it because they would want it to have like extreme accuracy. So they would make Rod Serling like his full height, exactly as tall as he is in real life. Well, Rod Serling was only 5'1". He was a very shorter guy. And
Short kings rejoice.
that's right. But you're elevated up more than 2 feet. So he would have looked so small. I think Joshua said he would look like a hobbit. He would look very tiny. Because of you.
They need to pull a Fast and the Furious and put him on a crate or a box to stand on like they do with Vin Diesel.
Yeah, I guess they decided not to do that. But they did have, it's fascinating. They put in an attachment for him to be there that still exists, apparently.
Okay.
So we could have had an audio animatronic of Rod Serling at the end of the Tower of Terror. And now I'm kind of sad that we don't.
That is, I mean, not going to lie, if it was trying to say all that dialogue, it probably is for the best that we didn't. Because if you take the, I don't know. Actually, you know what? They do a decent job. Like some of the new stuff, it's gotten so fancy. Like the Walt one right now is super weird.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I think of the Auctioneer and Pirate Red. I'm down on that, you know? If they had a rod that was like that.
I think that they could make it work, especially with today's technology. They could probably figure it out.
I don't know, though. Like the new stuff. How about the fact that, like, Frozen, they were finally getting rid of projection faces and we're going to real face, like, well, not real face, but, you know, a more animatronic face.
Yeah, that was an unexpected upgrade. Like,
yeah, I wonder if they're going to do the same for Seven Dwarfs because those guys all have projection faces, too.
Yeah.
Although they look a lot better.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. That'll be interesting to see if they do that. In any case, that's what we would have had there in the unload area. But before we talk about all of the other objects that are in this area, and there is a lot, Kirk, what do you have going on over there at Walrus Carve? Let's take a little break and chat for a bit.
Yeah, well, you know, we are a theme park clothing company. And let's say you're going to a park like Epic Universe. I'm rocking our Delightful Freak Igor shirt. And yeah, you just pop on over to our website, walruscarp.com, free shipping on everything. And we have tons of stuff for your next epic adventure. Of course, we do stuff for all the other parks as well.
Yeah, that's so fun. I love the Delightful Freak one. That's fun.
It's our best-selling Universal shirt by far because everyone loves Igor as a character. He's iconic and just needs merch. Like, they should be selling this shirt. Like, I should give them this and they should sell it. Maybe I should talk to somebody.
You should. So I had a very exciting week. I finished my audiobook for...
Wow. Okay.
I know.
What does it sound like?
So it's A Glimmer of Pixie Dust, Finding Our Hope in the Disney Story. I finally finished this audiobook, which is a big deal. It was 71 tracks that I had to record.
Oh my gosh.
And edit and master and format for Audible.
That's not easy, kids.
It's just in the approval process right now, which should just take a couple more days. So it's going to show up very soon in Audible is where you can listen to me read to you this book. And there are some tracks on it that it was emotional read for me. So there's some that I had to really try to keep it together. But I think that it was appropriate for this particular book. But this was it was a long process of getting this one done. And I'm very, very happy to have it complete. But for those of you who are not familiar with the process of audiobook production, I thought it would be kind of fun to share just a little bit of that because it's behind the scenes here. So, I mean, it literally is me recording in my home. So I have kind of a bit of a studio where I have more soundproof things to muffle out any sounds. Sometimes my neighbors decide to mow the lawn or their dogs. So exactly like Kirk is doing right now, there's a soundproofing material that I use to muffle things, and that's what I look like. Yes.
A Glimmer of Pixie Dust. Written by Kate Grasso.
Narrated by Kate Grasso. Production copyright
By Kate Grasso.
2025 by Kate Grasso. Published by Disney Cicerone. That's exactly what it is. So anyway, so if a train goes by or my neighbors let out their dogs or anything, I have to stop because it does pick it up, unfortunately, even within my studio. So, and I have to do it I do it the same time of day every day. So my voice sounds the same. So I don't have variances in the tone of my voice. And then after I've recorded all of them, which takes hours and hours and hours and hours, then I will go and have to go edit all of them. So I take out all of my mistakes, which happens a lot. I learned long ago that after you mess up a line, you clap once for the first time you mess up. When you messed up the same line twice, you clap twice, and so on and so forth. And that really helps the editing process because you can see on your waveform where you have clapped. And so you can just cut out all the sections that you don't need. And so
it's like this big weird spike on the waveform.
Exactly. So that's what I've been working on for months and months and months now. And it's finally done. And then after that, you have to format it for what they call ACX, which is the back end of Audible. And they have very specific requirements for, the decibel level, the volume level, the sound floor, which is like the room tone. So how loud it can be in the background of everything. They very much want the listening experience to be very high quality for everybody for Audible. So it takes a little bit of time to format that. And then you submit it and you wait for them to basically approve it and listen to, I'm sure that it's probably like an AI that listens to it to make sure it's okay. But that's
doesn't
where
really listen. Kate doesn't have ears.
That's true. Reads it.
I've already heard everything. What? I've listened to the book, Kate. It's approved.
It's so creepy.
Okay.
They're really picky, though, that like all of your chapters have to exactly match what's in the written book. So if you want to like switch things up in your audiobook, you also have to go and fix it in the print version so they match. They can't be different. So it's kind of an interesting
makes sense.
thing. Anyway, just thought I'd share a little bit behind the scenes there. You can get all of my books on Amazon.com or all 5 of my books are now on Audible as well, which is exciting. For Kate Grasso, Disney Cicerone, you'll find all of them there. Let's move back into the tower. There is a lot of things going on in this area as you exit. The sides, there's 2 elevator shafts that you can go in for the drop shafts. There's Echo and Foxtrot. And the sides are mirrored depending on which elevator shaft you're in, but they're similar, but not the same. So there's some repetition here, just like in the libraries, there were some of the objects that were the same. So the lighting in here does start out red. Kirk, I don't know if you've noticed this. It like starts out really dark and like red, and then it slowly raises to kind of an incandescent yellow lighting.
Okay.
And I was wondering, I was kind of like speculating about why this is. I think it's probably a dual purpose. One is not only is it scary to see these objects that are in here in like red light because they're creepy, but also it gives your eyes a chance to adjust from the darkness because the red light is so much easier on your eyes.
Yeah,
when it's been in the dark.
I think so too.
But let's start off with the Echo side. We're going to do side 1, which is the right side that has the dummy on it. I think that's the most recognizable figure that you'll see here. Starting from the right side, we have a white chair that has a picture in it, and then there's some blank picture frames in front of it. Right next to the chair is a floor radio that looks like this. So a floor radio is essentially a radio that is very tall because it stands on the floor. For those of us who don't have floor radios in our homes anymore, this is a 1940s Philco floor model 40-180 tube type skyscraper 3-band radio. That's a mouthful. Any radio in the tower, we've talked about radios before. Several of them are in the boiler room. But any radio in the tower could be referring to a episode called Static from Twilight Zone Season 2, Episode 20. So in Static, an elderly man named Ed Lindsay becomes disillusioned with modern life in the boarding house where he lives. And one day he digs out his old antique radio, and to his surprise, it begins playing long-defunct radio programs and voices from the past, including the voice of a lost love. As he tunes in more and more, the radio seems to serve as a portal to a different time, while everyone around him insists it's broken and silent. In the end, Ed disappears, apparently transported back in time to a happier era through the radio, leaving the modern world behind. So it has this theme of like disappearing into another time or, another dimension, just like the Tower of Terror. And so I think that's the kind of like creepiness of the radio, I think is what they're trying to portray here. Unless you have anything else about the radio in particular.
I do. I found out pricing wise on Philco's. It's Philco week, according to the May Company's ad here.
Awesome.
And the 1938 Philco automatic tuning was only $79.95. And they also had a compact style for $24.50 in 1938 as well. And if you're busy, mail this coupon or phone TUCKER 8211. It's America's fastest selling Philco. Oh my God, bro. Who wrote this copy? It's a big radio value. Think of it. A year ago, the lowest price automatic tuning Philco was $160. Now you pay only half that amount.
Wow.
And with slanted control panels, it reassures no squat, no stoop, and no squint.
Give me one of those Philcos. I'm sold.
Now, I think this ad will really sell you on the no need to squat, stoop, or squint.
Oh my God, there's animations of these people.
Never before have you been offered such a combination of power. No squat, no stoop, no squint. It's awful because if you got rid of the radio on the left-hand side of this guy who is squatting, it's really weird. What is he doing?
It's weird with the radio. And then there's just like a picture of a woman in a skirt leaning over, and you just see her backside.
Yeah, I'm sure he ain't squinting. So thank you, Philco, for that.
So that is the radio that we see there. And it was, Max Barker in our chat saying that's almost $1,900 in today's money. That's not inexpensive for the 30s, $1,790 something. Like that's a lot of money.
But
so,
you know what's funny? You could buy one on eBay for like $200 in today's money. So it actually would have went down in value, like substantially, That's like 10% of its value of 1938.
So radios are not good investments, kids.
And remember, video killed the radio star.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the dummy that is sitting next to the radio.
I never sat next to that radio, Kate.
This is a ventriloquist dummy that was featured in episode Caesar and Me from season 5, episode 28. In this episode, a struggling ventriloquist named Jonathan West is guided and ultimately manipulated by his sinister dummy named Caesar, who speaks only to him. Caesar encourages Jonathan to commit crimes to survive, leading to a robbery and eventual arrest. In a chilling twist, Caesar immediately begins influencing a young girl, suggesting the evil lives on beyond the ventriloquist, and it's in Caesar instead. So Caesar's actually the same dummy that was used in an earlier Twilight Zone episode called The Dummy from season 3, episode 33. I have this really great photo of Caesar. And then this is what he looks like in the attraction. So you can see he's obviously not the same. It's not the exact same doll. It's a replica of the one, because there's two of them at this attraction. So it's definitely not the original. But then this is what he looked like in The Dummy in season 3, episode 33, where the puppet is named Willie instead. The puppet was repurposed and renamed for Caesar and Me with minor cosmetic changes. But the interesting thing, Kirk, is this actually has a connection back to the concierge desk, if you can believe that. So this is wild, okay? I could not believe this when I found it. On the concierge desk, there is a magazine that we've talked about that is called Photoplay Magazine, and it is a real magazine that was from 1939, I believe. And it says on the title at the bottom, it says 4 pages of hilarious star caricatures by Walt Disney is on the front. And inside, we've talked about this before, there's this like Mother Goose Goes Hollywood sketch that has caricatures of basically famous people in Hollywood is what we're seeing in here. Now, why am I bringing this back up? Because we already discussed this a whole lot and we don't need to go over it again. However, the caricatures in that magazine were done by Thornton He, known as T. He in Disney history, which is funny, but that's how he preferred to be called. He had been hired specifically to work on this cartoon because of his skill in doing caricatures. Because of his skill in caricatures, T. He was loaned out, did the caricature design for the Cliff Robertson version of the ventriloquist dummy from the Twilight Zone for the puppet Willie, who was then used for the episode Caesar and Me. So, Disney artist designed that Caesar ventriloquist doll.
Well, you can see the based on the artistry. I mean, there's a ventriloquist doll even in the art itself on that magazine, and he's on the right hand side of the cover.
So I just thought that was a really interesting connection between T. He and the Twilight Zone. So
yeah.
The concierge desk and the end of the ride, like the beginning of the ride and the end of the ride, have a connection to each other, which I don't even know if they meant to do that.
No.
It seems like a bit of a coincidence. But I just thought that was really interesting that there's that connection there. And, just in general, the Twilight Zone episodes that include these dummies play on onomatonophobia, the fear of human-like figures, which is also, there's also related pediophobia, which is a fear of dolls. So either one, they play on those fears a lot in the Twilight Zone series in different episodes, and we'll see this come back later in the attraction as well. But tales of evil dummies and dolls remain effective today, even today, because they explore identity, sanity, control, and the ability to animate the inanimate through a lens of fear and fantasy. So they're meant to be creepy, and I think it's here because it's also meant to be creepy.
Did you ever try ventriloquism when you were a kid?
No, I never did. Did you?
I remember there was an episode of Doug Funny, where Doug Funny gets a ventriloquist doll, and the sentence that he used was, "The boy got the basketball, but he couldn't do any of the sounds right, so it would be like, the boy got the basketball." I just remember that as a kid. Plus, Night of the Living Dummy by R.L. Stein, the Goosebumps book. Oh, yeah. Dummies were a big part of fear culture growing up in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it stands the test of time. Isn't there like a HHN house that's doll related as well?
Yeah. Not ventriloquist. It's like more like Barbie and G.I. Joe action figure styles. But yeah, I mean, I think dolls in general are creepy to most people in certain ways, especially like those porcelain ones. Oof.
Yeah, for sure. With the eyes that open and close. Did you ever see the Talkie Tina episode of The Twilight Zone yet?
Ugh.
That one's a creepy one, and we'll talk more about that one later in the series. Joshua in our chat's saying that's Charlie McCarthy that's in the Photoplay magazine, and looks like you found a picture of it, Kirk?
Yeah, so Charlie McCarthy was the dummy partner of American ventriloquist Edgar Bergen, and it was part of Bergen's act as early as high school in the 1930s. And then here's another picture of just a dummy.
So then that would make sense then if He had done this, caricature of this dummy already, that's why they would seek him out.
They just are like, hey, I need you to do another dummy.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also in Fun and Fancy Free. Oh, so interesting. Wow, lots of connections today.
We are squatting, stooping, and squinting over here.
So there's also these like candle chandeliers that are in here. I think honestly, Kirk, anything that is like a window, a picture frame, these like ironwork that we see kind of in the back, the chandeliers that are hanging that look like they're candles, almost like they upgraded from something else. But I don't think the tower hasn't been around long enough to have candle lighting because it was built in 1917. So there's just old chandeliers. I think it's all just a throwback to that, storyboard art that we saw of those were the objects that they had planned to be in there. And then they added a few more as well. And then there's also like a rug that's in the back and a picture that's in the front, which actually isn't there anymore. If you look here, you'll see that there is a picture frame that's in the very front, but it's empty. But in 1994, there used to be a picture, a painting there. And it's just not there anymore. So for whatever reason, it's gone. And I could not tell what in the world this is. I tried for a good long while. I even asked some friends if they knew. And they're like, yeah, I got nothing. so far. So this might be something, a little bit of homework for Kate to go back and look at this again. But the other thing we see is this like mini suit of armor that's in the corner. This is possibly a reference. This is pure just guess, and this might not be correct. So speculation on my part. It could be a reference to the Twilight Zone episode titled The New Exhibit from season 4, episode 13, which is set in a museum. Here you can see the hat is actually covering the head of the armor in this particular photo. This episode is set in a museum, possibly, and I feel like there are a couple of scenes that look like it could have sort of suit of armor in the background. It's just really hard to tell. This is why I'm like, maybe or not. But the episode itself is really interesting, so I'm going to tell you about it anyway. So in this episode, Martin Lombard Sinescu is a museum employee who's obsessed with some wax figures from the Murderer's Row exhibit. And so this is, and how he's obsessed with how history remembers them for their infamy. And when the museum closes, he put them in his basement, which I'm sure his wife loved, so that he could continue to care for them. And he became rather obsessed with their care, way more than he cared for his wife, which is creepy. But then the figures seem to come to life and then commit murders, and they kill his wife and they kill a couple other people that come to the house. And instead of like calling the police or saying like, hey, maybe this is creepy, what's going on? Martin buries the people under his basement floor, which, spoiler alert, plot twist, Martin is actually the murderer, and he becomes a wax figure in the museum himself, as a infamous murderer. So you kind of got what he was obsessed about in the end. But again, the idea of inanimate objects coming to life being kind of scary or spooky. Again, the suit of armor is not a main character in this. So that's why I'm like, it's probably not connected. But I thought it was an interesting episode anyway. So
yeah, it's a cool episode.
It's a really interesting one. Joshua says it's possibly a Spanish conquistador statue. That is entirely possible as well. The other things we see here in the scene are a couple of chunks, a suitcase, an empty curio cabinet, what looks like it could be some sort of lamp. Just really kind of random objects, some more filler for the scene. Let's pop over to the other side of Echo. This is on the left side. We see a slot machine that is from the episode The Fever from season 1, episode 17. Where a man named Franklin despises gambling, but a drunken man gives him a coin to gamble with while on vacationing in Las Vegas. As he tries to walk away with his winnings, the slot machine taunts him back and chases him. And it does say, like, there's a sign on top that says special jackpot $10,000, which we do see on this. But this is actually quite creepy because he chases him and it kind of drives him mad, is what happens. Is this, like, he opens the door and the slot machine is literally there, like coming towards him. It's really creepy episode, actually.
It's like Requiem for a Dream, just with a slot machine.
Yeah, exactly. So this slot machine is in both Echo and Foxtrot, so we'll see it come back again later. But did you have anything you want to share about the slot machine, Kirk?
I do. So this slot machine is called a Watling Roll-A-Top slot machine. They made these all the way from the 1930s until the 1950s. There was a distinct round rolling top housing. It kind of looked like almost a seashell or a cornucopia.
Yeah.
And it was the signature of this Watling manufacturer company out of Chicago. There was a 3-wheel window dial. And hang on, where is let me show you like a real restored one so you can see inside a little bit better. Yeah. So you would see there was ones that were 5 cents. There was ones that were 10 cents. And you would load a coin and then you would pull the handle. It would load coins into that circular section. If you tried to load in a secondary coin, it had a coin return slot here. And then there were 3 dials that would turn. And based on what you would get, 2 cherries would pay out 3 betting units. 2 cherries and a bell would be 5 betting units. 2 cherries and a lemon would be 5, and so on and so forth, until if you get the 3 bells in a row, will get you the jackpot, which would dump everything that's in the coin holder below. I did find one that was restored, because these Art Deco pieces are just really kind of cool and interesting. They had Different style ones. Some have the American eagle, some have a lion's head on this center section. And you'll also notice that there is a Native American Indian down here on the left as well. So it just depends on which version you got. I did find somebody, just so for fun, you can see what one looks like in actual movement. I'm going to just mute this because he just talks about the coin return slot, but just so you can see the action. And this one, it does show you which one of these graphics you got. So he just got 2 cherries and a lemon, so that's a payout. But they were all different. And yeah, you load your coins, pull the handle, and see if you won anything.
That's fun. I like that.
I love vintage, like old stuff like this. The reason why they stopped making Rollotops is people figured out how to cheat them easily. So as a result, had to switch it out. But it's the molding on it is so cool. And then the fact that when you watch him pull the handle, so he loads a dime, you notice that the see-through window will shift. So yeah, not only do the 3 slot wheels turn, but they also have that shift in the where the dimes get loaded. So
I could see how that would be very addictive for people.
Yeah. But the see how easily he pulled off the back top? That's what people were doing to rip off the machines. So yeah. The house would have a hard time winning with that. So yep. It's so cool. I love that. It's all the old, there's I recently just went to Las Vegas for Universal's Horror Unleashed, and we didn't really gamble or anything like that because it's just not my style. But the one thing that I thought was cool is that there are locations that still like slots of fun that still use coins, because that's not really normal. Everything's almost all digital. So they have old school slot machines. So when you go into that place, it reminds me of when I would go to Atlantic City for the New Jersey Teachers Convention with my mom. We always got to eat at Planet, what was the name of it? Planet Hollywood. And it was the only place that had barbecue chicken pizza when I was a kid. I thought that was like the coolest pizza. And they had an old school shooting gallery in the mall that they had there, the Ocean One Mall in Atlantic City. But you could hear when you would walk through the casino floor, the ting, 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 and all the dropping, like the coin change sound. So
I love that. That's fun. Yeah. The only time I've ever been to Vegas, Elliot and I did it on a cross-country trip. And we did not have very much money. We were still college students at that point.
Yeah.
And so we decided, like, this was the only time I ever gambled in my life either. And so we said, okay, well, we're only going to take whatever money we could find in our car, like spare change.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's the only thing we're allowed to gamble. And so it was like $1.72 or something like that. It was not a lot of money because we don't have a lot of money in our car. But Elliot won $12 and then bought a mug that we still have from the
that's so fun
Fine Irishman in like New York, and like so that's the other he won, and then he just cashed out, and then we just quit.
Back in the day, you used to be able to sign up for their players cards, and then the players cards would get you like free slot play. They don't do any of that because they're hurting so bad. So I think there was only like 6 locations that we could go and do that and get players cards, get slot money, and then throw it into like a video poker machine and pull it out. So I didn't gamble with any of my own money, but I think I was able to walk out with like $37.
Yeah, there you go.
That's too shabby. That paid for a couple In-N-Out burgers.
There you go. That's the key. Yeah. Walk away while you're winning. That's important.
Yeah. And with those like free slot plays, all you want to do is just play them through so that you can withdraw. So like as soon as you're done playing through the credit, like withdraw immediately and get out of there.
Right. So other things that we see in this side, there is a sign that's on this side, and what you can see, it's very, very hard to read, but it says MK&W Mail Stage Line. And it's almost like from the Old West. Like it's weird because it's framed. And I was trying to figure out what in the world that could possibly be. And I came up completely empty. Do you have any thoughts, Kirk, about that one?
Frontierland, but no clue.
Right. That's what I was like. Frontierland would be my thoughts, especially with MK. But I'm like, I've never seen any signs like that in Disney. I've researched a lot of old photos trying to find it, and I came out completely empty. But you can see it here. It's on the one that's on its side is the sign that I'm referring to. There are a lot of Old West episodes of the Twilight Zone, but again, nothing that had MK&W male stage line in it. So
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what that's about. That's something that's still a mystery to me. And then we see a whole bunch of these like trunks that are sitting here as well. Kirk, did you want to talk about those at all?
I do want to talk about trunks because that's what I'm into. No, so I just think the trunk is kind of cool. This is a steamer trunk. So a wardrobe style steamer trunk specifically because it has an extra latch on the top. So there's lots of different trunks. The ones that are actually cool to me are the ones that split apart on the top section.
Yeah.
And these are vertical orientation with multiple side latches. And they had a hanging side space for suits, dresses, and uniforms and drawers on the other side. They had reinforced corners with rivet edges and leather trim. And the one that I found is from Hartman, but Seward, Likely, Belber, and Louis Vuitton on the higher end made these style steamer trunks. I think it's really cool to see inside of it. So like when you pull it open, it had straight up clothes hangers where you would put your items, and then this whole drawer setup. Like I had a trunk when I was a kid for Boy Scouts, like at camp, but it never had compartments. This one is just so neat.
Like, I want that for traveling to Disney. Like,
right?
Please.
Could you imagine, dude?
I could be so organized.
Yeah. And I just love all the fixtures and whatnot on it.
I love that you can hang up your clothes. That's great.
Like, could you imagine like being that organized? You wouldn't have to unpack. It's basically a closet.
You just open it up. It's like those ones. Have you seen those suitcases where that like it accordions down? Like you can pull it up and it's like already in. Every stuff is in shelves. Like. Yeah,
that's so great.
That's the dream.
Mm-hmm. I just have big compartment ones.
Yeah.
And then I use storage cubes.
Yeah, packing cubes. That's what I do.
Cubes,
that's the hack. Mm-hmm.
That's the hack.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I love that. Mm-hmm. We need to bring that back. Bring back steamer trunks.
They're just so big.
They're so great. You could bring so much in that. It's probably the thing itself is probably so heavy though. Like airlines would never.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Your 55 pounds are done with it empty.
Yes, exactly. So other things that we find here, there's what almost looks like a space heater that's sitting on one of the trunks, and then there's a book that's in front of it, which in some of the photos that I found is open and some of it is closed. And I asked Joshua, like, what's that about? And he's like, probably just cast member Mischief. So that was funny. I can't tell which book it is. It's too hard to tell from this photo. And then there's also a stool. There's a couple of like stained glass windows and picture frames, lots more different varieties of chandeliers in this section. And then there is like a chair on its side at the top. There is this something that popped out to me was almost like this card catalog that's behind it.
Okay.
And I was looking at that. I was like, that's weird because it looks like something that would be in a library, which if you are not old enough to remember what a card catalog was, that's how we used to find books before computers. And so you would look it up.
Dewey Decimal System, kids.
You would look up which book you needed, and then you'd be able to pull out the card and then find where it was in the library. That's how we searched for things back in the olden times. Of course, they are now long defunct in every library ever. But we're not in a library, we're in a hotel. So the only thing I could figure out, Kirk, is like maybe it was a way of storing old guest contact info or registry info. But it's clearly in storage, like not being used at all. So I'm not really sure why it's there other than filler for the scene, because that doesn't make any sense to have it there. And then there's also these like two cylinders, these silver cylinders that look like they could be for some sort of beverages. Kirk, did you have any information about those?
I do. So these are percolating style coffee machines. So basically, like if you've ever stayed at a hotel, these are usually made out of plastic with some metal elements, but it's basically like how you brew coffee. And these giant ones would be large vessels for brewing giant vats of coffee. I was not able to find the specific ones and who made those. There are lots of different companies, but I could not find any that looked like it. But Crescent, Frank, Ferry, and Clark made ones that were similar, but none of them were identical. I was able to find some of these older espresso machines too. I think this is
Yeah.
funny. Just as an aside, I'm just going to be very, very brief on this. But I was able to find some of these older espresso machines, and in this person's name is Joel Cheek, but you don't know Joel Cheek as Joel Cheek. You know him as Maxwell House.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
in 1886, after a ritzy hotel served his coffee in Nashville, Tennessee, 7 presidents stayed at the Maxwell House Hotel, including Teddy Roosevelt. In 1907, commented that this delightful coffee was good to the last drop, and that's what launched their advertising career back in 1907. So there is the creator of Maxwell House Blend, Joel Cheek.
That's interesting.
And because of a president is the reason why we have the ad campaign of good to the last drop.
So Maxwell House used to be in Disneyland as well on Main Street, USA. And so they had several of those kinds of coffee machines like you showed in Disneyland. Some of them came from other places, but like that's a whole nother story.
My one buddy, Disney Coffee Blog, wrote an article on these. So Disney Coffee Blog, if you ever need to find information on random coffee things and materials, he has literally everything.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of
It's John Hench and Walt Disney.
John Hench and Walt Disney having a little coffee right there, and little Lucky Strikes.
It was 1953 because they're looking over the plans for early Disneyland before it was more developed. Yeah.
So they were brainstorming over coffee.
And that's Walt's informal office that you're seeing them sitting in.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Yeah. That's a great
He does
photo.
a really nice job with like photo curation, and then on his actual website he has a lot more like pictures that are high quality, and then of course has like more in-depth articles about the history of coffee. A lot of it's just like, hey, here's the coffee here, but then he goes into some historical things. Like you'll see, I bet you didn't know this, at Port Orleans Riverside is a 154-year-old coffee grinder.
I did know that, but I love that he pointed it out. That makes me happy.
Yeah. So that's what he does, like with all these things. So it's really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's a good guy too.
So the only other thing that I want to point out in this area is up at the ceiling, you can see a tiny little flying saucer. That is from the Invaders from season 2, episode 15, which we talked about extensively in the library, where the little aliens come to this woman, and there's little alien men that we also saw in the library up on the upper shelf. Of course, then their flying saucer is here, which, was quite funny because the spoiler alert for this one is that the little men are actually like the full size men, and they're like visiting another planet where she's basically a giant. But in the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, though, that flying saucer is very small. So what does that commentary say about us? We are the giants.
We are massive.
Anyway, so that's enough for Echo. Then we got to move over to Foxtrot. And so a lot of the things are very, very similar over here. The slot machine is here that we saw, the exact same one. There's more trunks and picture frames, and more of the kind of coffee servers, percolators that Kirk mentioned. There's a stained glass lamp and windows, rugs, the flying saucers up there as well. There is a typewriter that you see that is sitting on a little stool, which I think is probably a reference to season 2, episode 4, A Thing About Machines, which we talked about before, where Bartlett Finchley's appliances come to life and attack him. The typewriter is a key, significant feature in that particular episode. So I think that's probably why there's a typewriter sitting on the stool there. Kirk, did you have anything you wanted to share about the typewriter?
Yeah, the only thing I have is that it's potentially a Underwood number 5 typewriter, which is a open frame design. I was able to find a couple of pictures of these up front. There's lots of different styles of these. There was a smaller one that was more compact, although I couldn't find good pictures of it. And I think that's the style that's here. Is it's made by Underwood, but I'm not sure exactly which one. And there's little individual typers.
Got it. Did you ever have a typewriter as a kid that you used to play with?
Yes, and it was silly.
Yeah, I remember just like click-clacking all the keys, and then you'd like push them all down at once so they all get like jammed.
Yeah. I always like to do the.
Oh yeah, that was so satisfying.
Yes.
Something
very
has been
satisfying.
lost in time.
The keyboards can be satisfying, though. I'm not going to lie. I like a good clacky keyboard.
I like good creamy ones.
Oh, dude, stop. Speaking my love language.
In case you're paying attention, kids, the way to Kirk's heart is a good creamy keyboard.
Mechanical. Don't try to give me some nonsense, membrane keyboard. I'm throwing that thing out the window. I've become a keyboard snob in my old age.
But we just have one last side to go, kids, and then we're finished with this. So let's pop over to the other side. The final side here on Foxtrot, side 2 on the left, which is where we see Caesar, the dummy, is back, and now he's sitting in a chair. And I was like, oh, this chair is fascinating. And that's where I went first. And so he's sitting in what I believe is an antique 1930s barber chair. As you can see it here, this is a black one. It has these white armrests. The thing that confirmed it for me was the circle at the bottom. Because if you see him sitting in it, he does have a footrest. And he does have that like black circle that's at the bottom. And so the shape of the chair as well is like, makes it so that his head is available for all of the shaving, hair cutting things. And so, of course, if we talk about barber chairs, we're going to have to talk about Sweeney Todd, which is
the demon barber of Fleet Street.
Yeah. Fleet Street. So Sweeney Todd is a fictional character who first appeared in a Victorian penny dreadful called The String of Pearls in 1846-47. He's a murderous barber who slits the throats of his customers and has their bodies baked into meat pies by his accomplice, Mrs. Lovett.
Delicious.
Over the years, Sweeney Todd has become a legendary figure of Gothic horror. Most famously adapted into the 1979 Stephen Sondheim musical, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. But that's immediately, I think, what most people probably think of when they see old barber chairs is probably Sweeney Todd. Yeah. And so I think it's to add an extra element of creepiness to it. Having an old barber chair that Caesar is then sitting in is just super creepy. So other things we see in the scene are exactly the same things we've seen in virtually all of the other sides. So there's old picture frames and trunks and chandeliers and old random windows and all of those kinds of things. But there is kind of an interesting object that's sitting there. It's like a cabinet with like a round thing on the top. Kirk, do you have any information about that?
I don't.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what in the world this was. And I
can guess it might be a record player.
I was thinking some sort of audio cabinet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I went.
A phonograph?
Because it looks like it has like almost like a speaker. There's a design
on the
covering
bottom,
a speaker. Yeah. I just have no idea what the circle is on top of it unless it's like a room service tray, maybe?
I think that's separate because you notice it's not...
Yeah.
It's like the placement of it is first of all, it's not flush. Secondly, it's not oriented in a center line.
Yeah.
So I think that's room service tray for sure.
I would say too. Then I think that pretty much calls it, kids. I think we did the...
Let's wrap it.
They did the unload. We made it all the way to the unload. We rode the ride and we've arrived at the unload area. And that's unfortunately where we have to come to a stop because the photo area that is where you like preview your pictures has an incredible amount of stuff behind it.
Yeah, there's a lot of artifacts there.
It's another library. So, so we're going to be doing that and probably the exit on our next episode. But for now, Kirk, do you have any final thoughts here as we wrap up?
Make sure to no longer stoop, squat, or squint.
Always solid advice, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want a radio, they're great price now. So get your floor radios.
Give them away.
Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Distory. We hope you enjoyed riding the Tower of Terror with us, seeing a few things you've never seen before. Profile 3 is the best. Don't let anybody tell you different. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. And we will see you next time for another episode of Distory.